Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Dustin here with Revere Glass. If you've been a long-time subscriber, thank you so much. If you're new to the channel, today we're going to be making a collaboration pipe with my friend LEDGlassart. So this week, my friend LEDGlassart came over and we made a collaboration Sherlock. I really love his shaping and he's an awesome, just great person to work with. Here's a close-up of that for you guys to check out. I made the Marini and the Rettichello, and then he shaped it and did the interesting color work. Make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video so you can see if you won last week's giveaway, which was the meteorite, and get a chance to enter in this week's giveaway by commenting on the video. For those of you guys that ask where to get my glass work, my available work is always listed on my website. I'm gonna put this piece up for you guys today, and it's a Sherlock that LEDGlassart and myself made again. This one's got UV and a faceted attachment. I really like how this one turned out. You're welcome to check to see if it's available on the website. I want to thank all the members of the online school. It's been great to see the growth of this, and especially I want to thank Rich Villa for coming out for the workshop. It was amazing to have you, and I felt so inspired after you left, and I know that everybody in the workshop enjoyed it as well. So if you're not a member of the online school, it's a free trial. Right now you can check it out and see if you like it. If you'd like to work closer with me and have me along your journey with glass, please reach out in the chat and just send a message. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Mountain Glass Arts. They've helped thousands of people start to be more artistic and have creative freedom and some supplemental income just by being able to supply all these people all over the world with excellent customer service and any kind of tool you would need for lamp working. So if you mention that you saw Mountain Glass Arts in the video, they'll give you a small discount. So thank you guys so much, Mountain Glass Arts. You really make these videos possible, and everyone in the world and in the community appreciates your contribution. Thank you. All right, you guys, welcome to the studio. I'm super excited to introduce LEDGlassart to you guys. I've really admired his work for a long time, and when we first met, he took a workshop here at Revere Glass, and I could see right away that he had a talent for shaping. So I'm really happy to have him in the studio and introduce you guys, and here he is. He can tell you a little bit about himself.
Hi guys, I'm Logan. I go by LEDGlassart on Instagram. I'm 21 years old and I've been blowing glass for about 4 years now. I started out watching Dustin's videos online, so this has been a great experience getting to know Dustin and working with him on these videos. It's been very cool and full circle for me. I'm from Santa Cruz originally. I blow glass up in Chico, California right now. Here in Berkeley with Dustin. It's awesome.
Cool, yeah, thanks for coming. So the first thing, one interesting thing that Logan does that we're gonna share a little bit with you is he's sleeving different colors to make new colors that aren't part of any palette and unique to his own work. So you can talk a little bit about what you're doing with this process, but very cool stuff that you're showing.
Thanks. Yeah, I like the colors in glass. It's just one of my favorite things. Some beautiful transparent colors over opaque colors and stuff. You create combos that are really unique and kind of set your work apart from other people. The one I used in this video didn't come out exactly how I wanted it, but that's how it goes sometimes. You just kind of see what you get and end up using it. The one I used was, I believe, Pixie over Ghost Aqua Azul, and the Pixie just didn't ghost out as much as I wanted.
And that, that's a good thing to remember, is that when you guys are blowing glass and you're aiming for a certain thing, but it comes out slightly different, those are really nice times where you get to see different colors or things you might not expect, and having an open mind and being able to work with what you have and to experience a new color, maybe not what you expected, but a lot of it's really comes out interesting as as Bob Ross says, they're happy little accidents. Somebody who I really admire as far as his ability to teach a craft to the world.
Absolutely. I mean, I think probably the majority of new techniques were probably created by mistake or were envisioned during a mistake or time of creative So, you know, it's definitely great to be able to make mistakes and then see where that leads to your work.
So I'm working on a Rettichello for this piece. So we're gonna do a little collab here, and I'll do the line work for this, and then Logan's gonna do the shaping and the color. So we're both kind of working together at the moment, and I'm setting up the Rettichello and he's setting up the color at the moment. So with the Rettichello, there's also a video specifically about this, but what I'm doing is I'm twisting this tubing that I made, which has, it's a vac stack with clear, and then for the stringers I used a white. And then I twist everything going one direction, trying to have nice even spacing. And then I twist a tube the opposite direction, and I sleeve them together to make the crossing pattern. You can see even there, it looks like a Rettichello just because you can see through the tube. And it's pretty beautiful to watch the process of this.
And that's just about the same process that I'm doing right next to him with two different colors. So we just take one tube, open it up. Oh, and it looks like the color I'm using is Antidote, not Ghost Aqua Azul, sorry. But you just take one tube, open it up, put the other one in, and suck all the air out.
Yeah, and then different people have different methodologies for making these sleeves. You could do it on a lathe or by hand. You could do it the way that I do it, where there's like a cup. Logan's got a slightly different way. There's so many ways to achieve a similar thing. So, you know, experiment with what feels right for you, and you know, you can create your own technique that way.
Yeah, so here I'm just disconnecting the extra little bit of that Antidote, and inside is going to be the inside of the pipe. When we make it will be like green with that Antidote, and the outside will be pink with Pixie. So it'll be kind of like a double layer that you won't necessarily see from the outside, but when you take a better look at the inside and the details of the pipe, you can see that there's more inside there.
And what's interesting is the way that this is edited is we're both kind of doing the same thing with sleeving right now. And you can see that my methodology is slightly different than Logan's, where I flared it out. I'm going to be dropping that in, versus Logan just put it in, sealed around the outside. Both of them are absolutely acceptable, and you could use either evacuation by manually, which is what we're both doing, or you could have a vacuum pump hooked up to it. Both of those work as well. You can see mine is now inserted. I'm going to bring that down a little bit, and you can see the lines crossing at this point.
Yeah, that Rettichello looks beautiful. It's always nice when you get those two lines and the twist perfect, where it just lines up for those diamonds.
Yeah, it's, as you guys may have known, this is an old Italian technique, and I'm going to use the Naquali here for a little bit to just, you know, it's a new tool in the studio, so I'm experimenting with different things, and I thought, well, maybe I just put it in here and vacuum it down that way. So I vacuumed it down about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way, and then that's what I want for this piece. So I'm going to take that off, and then have a couple of sections of this.
And the length that Dustin gave me was perfect, because I had to take off actually a lot to get the termination how I wanted it on the pipe. So giving me extra was really smart, because it helped. It helped get the final product a lot more clean.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to remember, is always prep up more than you're going to use. I don't know if I've ever showed you guys that technique in a video where I was opening the hole with my tweezers. So I was splitting the glass and making it thinner and thinner until it rips apart. And that's another way that you can open a hole if you don't have the ability to blow into it.
So I think I'm starting some shaping here. This might be the main body of the pipe, I believe. I start by just blowing a bubble, get it all nice and even. Make sure those walls aren't heavy on one side or anything. And let's see. Oh yeah, now I'm flare it open for a lip wrap.
You guys might want to take note at how Logan uses his Marver on top of his torch and the reamer together to flare things open. I think he's already even done that once previously in the video. And there's another technique that is not really part of my normal working techniques, but definitely a great technique, and you guys should pay attention to how these different guest artists work when they come in, because you're going to be able to pick up things that are different than how I work, but so valuable to have all this stuff in your repertoire.
Yeah, you start to learn little stuff like that over time, and it really makes your work a lot more clean. That's the kind of the stuff that really helps.
There's a little lip wrap. Look at that connection on the L marver. Very interesting.
That I saw on a YouTube video from somewhere, and that really changed the way I did in combos, because you can really take your time to sit there, look at the two holes, line them up, and make sure the lines are just perfect.
Yeah, that lip wrap came out great, and that's interesting definitely to connect it on the L. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So very cool. Learning new things every day.
Always learning.
Right? That's one thing I heard recently. I was watching a Robert Mickelson video, and he was talking about how every time he goes into the studio, he tries to learn something, which I really admired and identified with. That, you know, you go into the studio, into this medium, and for me, the goal is just working with the medium and learning. It's not about making a specific object. It's just about being able to be so lucky to be able to use this material to sculpt with. And thinking about it like that.
Right there, I just pushed a little Hollow Maria for the part of the bowl, and I'm gonna build another section. I think Dustin's Rettichello section on top of that for the actual bowl. And I completely agree with you, Dustin. I love learning in this medium. It's so rewarding, just you know, growing as an artist and going through the journey of growth with glass. It's really rewarding.
Yeah, and you know, that's the motivation behind all the YouTube videos and the online school, which you guys should definitely check out. There's a free trial right now at revereglass.com. And you know, my motivation is to share these techniques with you so that you can be the best glassblower possible. So through the videos on YouTube and through the school, we try to create a platform that makes it as easy and as accessible as possible for anybody in the world to see these different techniques and to build their own skill set.
This the tool I'm using right now are just a little tiny pair of mini reverse tweezers. Those are my favorite for opening up holes. You get really accurate and even holes with those.
Yeah, do you put wax on those?
Absolutely, if I can, if it's accessible and if I remember. Usually I do.
And there's the Rettichello section that we're going to use for the top of the bowl, which I think turned out really great. And by the way, this pipe is for one of you guys. Just comment on the video. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel as well. But we're going to be giving this one away to one of the commenters. So make sure you let us know, what you like about glass, or what you're making, or any questions that you have for myself or Logan. And we'll pick out one of the winners and give this beautiful Sherlock away to one of you guys. And there's another one available, which you saw at the beginning of the video. And that one's available on the website right now. So if you'd like, you guys can get that collaboration from us as well.
Yeah, I love that you guys are checking these out. And I just want to know if you guys, what your favorite part of the process is, because for me, it's so fun, but I, as the artist, don't get to appreciate it from an outside perspective. So tell us what your favorite part of watching is.
Yeah, absolutely. There you can see the encalmo that we just made with the Rettichello. That's going to be, when he pushes it down, it's going to be nice, and those lines are going to create these beautiful diamonds and stuff that you can look into. And we want to create as elegant and beautiful of a piece so that when you're using it, you're appreciating, all the aspects of what you're doing and the ritual of enjoying the piece. We sped up the video a little bit here for you guys, you can see, and we're just Logan's just shaping the piece and getting it ready to push the bowl.
Shaping is just a lot of, for me, chasing that image that's in your head, and just kind of going back and forth, doing little actions, just pushing things out, making things more even. It's the little things, the little adjustments that really end up making the shaping super clean at the end.
Yep, it's true. Work slow. That's one thing that we were talking about last time Logan was here, is that, after hosting so many teachers, when I started that in 2006, about 2008, I started to think about, what do all these guys have in common? All these master glass blowers that I'm inviting, what I've seen them all work at this point. What is it? What's the common thread? And the common thread is they take it slow. They do each step as best as they can, and then they move on to the next step. And so that's exactly what Logan just said, is, those little adjustments make your work stand out.
My old teacher, shout out to Santa Cruz Glass, always used to say, move slow to work fast, because in the end, if you move slow, you're not going to make as many mistakes and it'll end up taking less time.
Yep, move slow to work fast. Another way to say it is make time to do it right the first time, or make time to do it again. And you know, it's just important. You know, you're blowing glass or interested in blowing glass for the process, and you know, you want to make sure that you appreciate the medium and are connected with the medium in the way that it wants to move. And the longer you blow glass, the more you'll understand the medium as a whole and be able to intuitively do things. Like, for example, a lot of the YouTube videos that I've made, some of those things were things that I had done for the first time just to kind of show the process. It's not things that I have a lot of practice in, but because I've worked with the material so long, I understand logically how it's going to move. And that's something that you guys can get from just practice.
Absolutely. The more you practice, the more you understand the medium, and it just kind of becomes one with how you think. You just understand it much better.
Yep. So we're popping the hole here for the carb, and Logan keeps everything sealed, and you can see he's opened that up at an angle because he wants that carb facing towards you, so you have this really nice grip for your thumb when you're holding the piece. Again, making sure that it's as elegant and functional as possible.
Absolutely. It's those little details. I love adding those just little things that make it a little bit cleaner and just stand out a little bit more to everybody.
And it's interesting too, because the carb is being attached prior to the U-bend, which for me is the first time I've seen this. And so I so appreciate Logan's methodology and how he's making this. And you know, again, take note, you guys, because it's a different style than you've seen me work before, and it just opens up different doors and possibilities for you to make different pieces and different styles.
Mm-hmm. And I end up using the closed off carb as a bridge for when I put the two pieces together, so it adds to the final piece and it's part of the process. And it's just those, every time you make things, if you make them more and more, you understand the parts of the process and how they work together. And it really just helps develop yourself and the things that you're making.
So you're just removing a little excess glass here and heating it up in the Lynx flame, and then applying the lip wrap, which you can see he's just barely in the flame and melting it as slow as he needs to get the nice even lip. And you can cut that little last piece off with shears if there's a big bleb on there.
Now I'm just going back in on the Marver to get that clean straight seal. Make sure the line in the lip wrap is perfectly straight along the ring.
And this is the stem of the piece, and that's going to be a Maria right in the center there to kind of show off and match the bowl piece, so that we bring a little bit of the color on each side.
For getting the shaping for this part, it's really important to get it really hot and pull it all down so it's a perfectly even wall weight, especially with the lip wrap in there. It doesn't necessarily want to stay even all the way through, so getting it really hot and making sure it's even before you start shaping it is really important.
And also keep in mind that when you're making a Rettichello, that tubing sometimes can be a little bit difficult to work with. So you have to move slow and do each little thing with consciousness so that you can shape that really clean, like Logan's done here. It took a lot of awareness of his heat base to shape that Maria so clean.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's difficult to do working with Rettichellos early, because it takes a very steady hand to make sure the pattern doesn't get twisted up in a certain direction.
Yep. Yeah, that's one thing that you can use to practice too, is when you make line work or Rettichello, you will be able to see if you're twisting it very fast, because the pattern's going to get off. And when you're blowing glass, you want to have control over when you're twisting and when not. And using line work as opposed to a solid color, you get like a clear visual immediately if you're off on your rotation.
One little trick for beginners that I learned early on was taking tape and putting it on the ends of two rods, and then just rotating those in your hands and watching the tape and making sure both tabs of tape stay completely in line with each other, basically become the human lathe.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing to practice and a good note. Something that's practice for people who are starting off, or even before you have glass, you can do that on pencils or something, chopsticks, and still practice the hand movements even before you have your torch.
Yep. I was doing that in high school while watching Dustin's videos.
Thanks. It's fun. It's fun to make this stuff, and I appreciate now that the videos have been out for a while, there's a generation of people that have become so good, and it's such an honor to have them in the studio and be working together for a couple of days, and knowing that I played a partial role in helping them achieve their goals. Just doing a quick little straight seal here.
That's a tricky seal to get because you can see I have it completely blown out right now. And I'll go back in and clean that up later, but I just wanted to make sure I got the seal perfectly together with no creases so it doesn't break later. Because that's definitely a point of weakness for the pipe.
Yes, absolutely. Especially with those, that's like probably a 10 millimeter tube or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Approximately 10 to 12 at that point. And yeah, you got to be careful if you're going to do dynamic shaping like this, that everything is sealed properly.
The first thing I always make sure is just that the wall weights and everything's even, because if you shape it after that and there's creases, they will break. That's where your cracks are going to come from.
So now we're just going to use the V-blade, make that the right size. Take that last little piece off, and you can use that for something else later.
Yep, got it puntied up, and with the V-blade it keeps a perfect hole, so it's ready to prep up, and I can honestly just open that up and throw it right on a lip wrap for something else.
Mm-hmm. Getting ready to pop that hole, thinning it out a little bit first.
I like to pop my bowl holes before I put them together because you can get straight right on that bowl, right on axis, and twist it like I'm doing and make sure it's perfectly in center. Where if you do it after, you kind of got to look down, and it's a weirder process.
Yeah, definitely, because the piece is not centered at that point. Once it's on the handle side of the stem, it's definitely not as easy to put it on the bowl in that straight shot. So I'm making a Marini here. Well, I have a Marini, I'm just encasing it. It's a Marini I made earlier, and we wanted to add a little marble on the piece for you guys, and it's just a skull Marini with some suns or bright yellow dots in there, and a Marini that I made a while ago. We're going to attach it to the side here.
Super cool Marini. Love that one.
Thanks, yeah. So this one, I just did a video on it on the online school. Not this particular one, but the technique of making it, where we're doing a cluster of other Marinis. So if you're a member of the online school, or if you'd like to check it out, you guys can. There's a more in-depth process on how to get a Marini that looks like this there.
And I love that the colors in the Marini actually matched kind of the colors of the pipe, the orange and reddish shades in the end. It's a perfect little attachment for it.
Yep. And we're doing, I'm doing clear on each side. It's what Logan wanted, and then we're just going to attach it so it looks like that Marini is floating. The collab piece that we did together, instead of the Marini, there's a faceted section that has a couple opals in it, and that's really beautiful. Logan did the faceting on that.
Yeah, I gotta love facets, man. They make everything look just so beautiful.
Yeah. So just going in with the Marver here, holding it up, pulling it towards him just a little bit to make that really nice and even down all the way to that Rettichello Maria.
It takes a lot of going back and forth to do that right. You gotta make sure you don't leave waves where you heat and where the heat stops. If you heat up half your mouthpiece and not the other half, you're gonna have a kind of weird thick spot at the end. So just gotta make sure everything's all perfectly even.
Now just removing the glass here to close that off.
I think I ended up not having enough space on the mouthpiece, or not having enough material for that mouthpiece. So I pulled down some more tubing and add it to the top. And that's just one of those things where you have to do that every so often. You just don't calculate things right and gotta go back and correct.
Some people like to use glass containers for their knockoff because the way that the glass hits a jar like that, it creates a really nice way for it to come off. Sometimes the glasses chip over time. I use that metal bucket. You guys can see it on my bench and in other videos. I use it largely, I think, because I've had it since 1990, maybe 6. It's like one of the first things that I got, and I still have it, and I've been using it for like 25 years or something. So I just have a sentimental attachment to my water break-off bucket.
On my bench at home, I have both. I have a metal bucket that's much bigger, and then that jar, because if you use just the jar, it fills up pretty quick. So I'll usually dunk stuff in the glass and knock it off, or I use both.
And take note at the way that Logan's bending that piece down there to give him that start for that U-bend. And that's really a great way to create that space and have that bigger U-bend, which is, it's different than the way that I've demonstrated to Sherlock, which are a smaller style of Sherlock. So now you have a couple of different ways to make Sherlocks after this video.
Yeah, the pre-shaping is really, really important for my style of Sherlocks, just because you can really see how the Sherlock is going to end up before you even put it together. And so getting the angles right and putting them in the right spot, it's really important for the cleanness of the finished piece.
And just opening up on the bottom, same the way that I do it, because you can't really bend that to pre-shape it as much just because of the way that this is made. But having that bend and pre-shape on the stem is really going to allow that space so that Logan can match up the lip of the bowl with the Maria of the stem and create enough space to have that dynamic neoclassical shaping.
Just flaring that open to the same size as the back part, and then I will get everything ready to bridge up and put them together.
Here we go, attaching the bridge here, or the stem for the bridge. And with the Lynx flame, heating those both up and getting them ready for the connection.
The thing about this part is I've found that you don't really have to be incredibly accurate. You can kind of move them around once you put them together. So I just put it together however closest I think, and then I really take time to look at it, line it up, and make adjustments, and it helps.
Yeah, definitely with this seal and some other seals, you can be a little bit less accurate when you're attaching it, giving you time to get it exactly where you want and then blow out the seal. As you guys see at the end when the Sherlock is there, that the seal is super smooth, and when he put it on, I'm sure you noticed it was askew, and then he looked at it really carefully, set it up from all different angles, and now it's perfectly straight. And just got to go in there, remove any excess glass, and blow out that U-bend.
I usually pull that termination back towards the seal, just because if it's line work or some colors that strike, you can hide the termination a bit better, and it looks a little bit more like one full swooping piece.
Just going in with the Lynx flame and then connect it to the blow tube so Logan can blow while he's watching that expand to make sure that he doesn't blow too far. Obviously plugging the hole with the bowl push and blowing, and then just watching that glass thin out and connecting and just working that seal.
And I start off with the bottom of the seal and let all the glass kind of droop into the middle, get it all really hot, and then I focus on the sides.
Yep, totally. And I think that's largely the methodology, is you focus on the bottom because you can get that U-bend first, and then the U-bend also adds stability once that bottom part is blown out.
It's important to also use gravity to your advantage. So if you want the glass to kind of bunch up a little bit more, you hold the pipe up like I'm doing right there, and the glass is going to fall back into itself. Where if I hold it down, the glass will pull downwards, and maybe it won't be as bunched up. It'll be more of a V shape.
And with the blow tube, you can hold the piece in any way that you want to look at it from different angles. So as you blow, you can turn it, you can hold it vertical or horizontal, or at an angle, depending on what is going to give you the best view and ergonomics to blowing out the bottom of it.
I'm just taking more of the material from the front part and moving it back, making sure that curve is just an even swoop with no bumps or ridges. You can keep going back and forth And any part that you see that seems a little uneven, just heat the whole area up, and wait for it to cool down and blow it out. I blow and I suck, so it averages out the wall weight. You blow it out a little bit, it goes too far, you suck it back a little bit, and then eventually as it cools, it becomes a perfectly in line with the rest of the wall next to it.
And just going on the sides now, so the bottom is like, it's not quite there, but the flame is moving up a little bit more on the sides now to kind of work that glass all together, and then to expand the size just a little bit so that taper between the stem and the bowl is like very even at this point.
Now I'm going into the middle part and evening out that part of the seal. Making sure that's also nice and even. I usually take my bowl push and I'll stick it in there just to make sure the U shape is a perfect circle.
And it's so attractive to have that clean shaping and that bowl push in there. Or you can use graphite or anything else that would fit in that little section that's not going to stick to the glass.
Now I barely touch the marver to the glass. I don't want to push it down at all. I just really want to make sure that any ridges sticking up are pushed to the same area as the rest of the glass.
So we're getting pretty close here. We've got to attach the Marini now. And you can see we're going to attach this on the opposite side of the carb, right on the seal on the U-bend there. And that's going to give just a nice accent. So you have this beautiful piece with Rettichello and beautiful shaping and Marini. It's just visually appealing. So any little details you can add onto your piece will be appreciated by your audience for sure.
Absolutely, it's the little things.
Just go in there to polish off that punny mark and then seal up that side a little bit and remove any excess glass.
And if you notice that punty just popped off by itself, if you hold the punty up above the hot glass, usually the heat from the seal will actually break that cold seal. So it's a nice, easy, once you get it down, easy way to disconnect cold seals.
And one of the final steps here, we're going to cut this on a saw, we'll show you in a second, but just bending that mouthpiece back, being really careful. And it's so thin that Logan's going to hold it with the Kevlar grabbers so that he has control over that nice slow slow neck bend.
And just like putting the two pieces together, I look at it from every angle and make sure that it's not going off to one side or anything wonky. So it's definitely a hard part with a tube that thin. I honestly mess up a lot, but this one came out really clean. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, and there you guys can see kind of finalizing the shape here. And it's interesting, Logan's just gonna melt this off and put that in the kiln like that. So seal that up, and it's still got a hole in the bowl, so it's not gonna create a vacuum or anything like that. But now we go to the saw and saw off those two pieces and just finish up the whole thing.
You could always, if you don't have a saw or a lap wheel, you can always just take those holes and open them up, and just like normal.
But you guys can see the piece here with the beautiful glam shots. You can see the Rettichello and the beautiful colors that Logan did, and the shaping where the nice clean U-bend.
If you look inside the bowl, you can see that there's a double layer color. You kind of see a bit of green inside and pink on the outside. The body color is Stargazer over Ghost OJ, so beautiful kind of transparency and layers.
So this Sherlock's for one of you guys. Make sure you comment on the video. Let us know what you think and what you're doing with glass, or what you like about blowing glass, or anything that you have that you want a question of. Just comment on the video. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you turn on those notifications, you'll see when we put out new videos. Thanks a lot for watching, you guys.
Thanks for watching.
Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for checking out that collaboration with LEDGlassart and myself. It was so fun to have him in the studio, and he was a great guest. I can't thank you enough, LEDGlassart, and I think that the Sherlock turned out fantastic. So I got some questions that you've asked, and I just want to remind you guys, please ask questions in the comments and I'd love to answer them in the next video. So the first question is from Hyperfocus Glass, and he'd like to know some tricks on getting even wall thickness for condensing and blowing out, and especially in coil pots. So the trick to getting even wall thickness is condensing it and blowing it out. And what you want to do is you want to blow it pretty thin and then use a soft bushy flame to let it condense slowly. And when it's condensing, you don't want to blow, and you want to make sure to just let it nice and evenly melt in, so you're not folding it and things like that. I'd start off small and blowing things out just for practice to condense them back down, and then you'll build that skill so you could do it on larger work. Thanks for asking. The next question is from Nick Pruitt Glass, and he's having some trouble connecting wigwag balls, reversals, and stacking those up. I'm not exactly sure what the specific issue is, but I would say when you're doing encalmos like that, make sure that you have small holes and everything is even and lined up. That's the whole thing about a wigwag, is each step needs to be lined up perfectly for the end result to look good. So make sure that your kicks are as good as they are, make sure your sphere is as good as it can be, make sure your hole is as perfect, the connection is nice, and make each step along the way as best you can, and then your wigwags will start to turn out a little bit better. Definitely when you're blowing it out, don't focus on the line itself of the connection, focus on either side, and the radiant heat will go into that section, and then you'll be able to blow that out evenly. Thanks for asking. The next question is from Australian Smurf, and they'd like to know, what is the cheapest way to buy or build a kiln? I guess that depends on what you charge yourself per hour. So if you have a lot of time, you're welcome to build a kiln, especially if you understand a little bit about thermodynamics. If you're in Australia, it might be a little bit more difficult to get a kiln, so you may want to modify a ceramics kiln that's already there. If you have shipping from the United States, there's plenty of kilns that are under $500 that you can have shipped to you. And if you're on a really low budget, you can always use vermiculite in a crock pot. That doesn't really anneal your stuff, but it's good enough to do some clear, especially for flame annealing right at the beginning of your glassblowing journey. Thanks a lot for asking the question. All right, you guys, thank you so much for sticking to the end. This week, we're gonna give this meteorite pipe away to Halunka Records. Thank you so much for watching and commenting. I really appreciate the interaction. Just let us know your address on the website by using the chat on the bottom right-hand corner to let me know that you've won, and we'll ship this right out to you. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in a couple weeks with another On the Torch. What's up, guys? Welcome back. I'm Dustin, here with Revere Glass. Oh, hi there. I didn't realize you were there. Hey, I'm Dustin. All right, no fucking around. Hey, guys. Let me fix something.